Welcome back, book talk enthusiasts, to another exciting episode of Dragons and Spaceships, the podcast where we explore the stories taking readers by a storm. I am your host, Brandi, and today we are diving into a powerful and poignant historical novel, The Women on Platform 2 by Laura Anthony. This book takes us back to 1970s Dublin, where contraception was outlawed and women's choices were tightly controlled. Against that backdrop, a group of women risked everything to smuggle contraceptives into the city, sparking a movement that would change history. It is a heartbreaking, uplifting, and eye-opening novel inspired by a little-known true story. But before we dive into our main feature, let's take a quick look at what's trending. This week's buzz is around a book readers can't stop talking about. Since we're sliding into autumn vibes, let's spotlight a cozy fantasy that's got major fall energy. Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. It centers on Annie Wildwood, a witch whose life is so polished and perfect it's starting to crack. She's tasked by her coven to mentor a fiery teenage witch named Maeve, and their stay in a creaky woodland cabin along with gruff warlock in residence slowly unravels more than she bargained for. There's magic, tension, found family, and an autumn-tinged atmosphere that feels like the kind of book you read by candlelight. Definitely one to add to your fall TBR. So back to our book. In 1970s Ireland, contraception was illegal. Women had little control over their bodies, their futures, or their health. This is the landscape Laura Anthony drops us into, a time where personal freedom was criminalized and silence was enforced by law. At the heart of the story is Mara, a young woman who marries Dr. Christy Davenport. At first, he seems like the perfect partner, but the illusion shatters. Christy's temper is violent, his control absolute. After a devastating miscarriage, Mara realizes she can't bring a child into such a dangerous environment. Her journey becomes one of survival, resistance, and reclaiming agency. Running parallel is the story of Bernie, Mara's close friend. A mother of 3, she learns that another pregnancy could be fatal. For Bernie, contraceptive isn't convenience, it is life or death. Together, she and Mara find the courage in each other, and soon they will join forces with other women to take extraordinary risks. This is where history and fiction meet, the infamous contraceptive train. Women traveled from Northern Ireland, where contraception was legal, and smuggled it back to Dublin. The novel dramatizes the courage and fear of those journeys, ordinary women breaking laws to protect themselves and others. These scenes are tense, emotional, and filled with the energy of collective rebellion. The narrative also jumps forward to modern Dublin, where we meet Saoirse, a pediatric nurse. After a health scare, she questions whether motherhood is right for her. What she doesn't realize is that only a few decades earlier, women like Mara and Bernie made it possible for her to even have that choice. Her eventual meeting with Mara connects the timelines in a deeply emotional way, showing how struggles from the past ripple forward to empower new generations. Let's go ahead and talk about some themes that resonate. We have women's autonomy. The novel highlights how recently women lacked the basic right to control their bodies. We have sisterhood and solidarity. Mara and Bernie's friendship becomes a lifeline, proving change begins when women stand together. And we have generational legacy. Saoirse's freedom exists because of sacrifices made decades earlier. We have resistance and risk. The act of smuggling contraception wasn't just illegal, it was revolutionary. But let's pause for a quick character spotlight. Mara, from victim to activist, her courage grows with every page. Her voice embodies the silenced women of her time. We have Bernie, who's grounded, practical, and maternal. She fights not just for herself, but for her family's survival. Then we have Saoirse, the modern reflection of their fight, proof that progress is never free and must continually be defended. Anthony doesn't just create characters, she builds living symbols of resistance, resilience, and connection. The Women on Platform 2 reminds us of how far we've come and how fragile those gains can be. It's not just history, it's a call to remember that rights are fought for, won, and must be protected. It's a story of heartbreak, solidarity, and ultimately empowerment. And it asks us, if these women were willing to risk everything, what will we do with the freedom they gave us? That's our deep dive into The Women on Platform 2. But now, since it's spooky season, let's switch gears and talk about a horror release that's on the horizon that's already generating buzz. Let's talk about King Sorrow by Joe Hill. It's set to hit shelves on October 21st, 2025. This one leans into horror, fantasy, and the occult. The premise: 6 friends summon a dragon demon via a dark ritual in exchange for vengeance. But as you might expect, dealing with supernatural pacts and demons never ends well. If you're into horror that mixes myth, dread, and morally messy characters, especially in this season of longer nights and ghostly vibes, King Sorrow is shaping up to be a major release to watch. Better pre-order now because it's one of those October titles that feel perfect by your candlelight in November. Today's listener question comes from one of you who turned into our I'm Glad My Mom Died episode. She asked, do you think Jeanette McCurdy would have been able to share her story so honestly if she hadn't left acting behind? That is a good question, and honestly, I don't think so. Walking away from acting gave her both distance and the safety to reflect on her past without being tied to the pressures of Hollywood or her old image. It also gave her the freedom to embrace writing as her true voice. That honesty is what makes the memoir so raw and powerful. She wasn't filtering it for a studio, a network, or even her mom's approval. It was all hers. And that wraps up today's episode of Dragons and Spaceships. We explored Laura Anthony's The Women on Platform 2, a moving tribute to women who risked everything to secure rights many of us now take for granted. If you've read it, I'd love to hear reflections. Did Mara's story resonate with you? Did you see echoes of her fight in today's world? Also, if you're an audiobook listener, I highly recommend this one via audiobook so you can hear those amazing accents. Share your thoughts with us on social media, and we may feature them in our next Q&A segment. Until next time, happy reading, stay curious, and may your TBR pile never stop growing.